Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the chat session on the This Way Network. We are so glad to have you with us this morning. Good morning, Rodney.
Good morning. How are you, Nina? How's everything
I'm
going?
doing great. And good morning, Aaron. I'm so
Good morning.
glad you're our guest this morning.
Me too. Good morning to
Yeah.
y'all. How you doing?
Aaron and I had a chance to talk recently, and he told me that he went to something recently that and God did a mighty work there in
Wow.
several areas of his life, and I cannot wait to hear. I always love hearing what God is doing. So I can't wait to hear your story, and it sounds like a lot has happened since then.
Yes.
Even.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Very good.
So,
Very good. It's been a great start to the week already. Just coming off the heels. Yesterday, I was with a music artist. His name's Talon. And the great thing is he performed at the Placentia Heritage Festival where we were honoring our Vietnam veterans. And so this was a 58th annual event here in Southern California. Had a few thousand people at a street parade. It was wonderful. And they even gave out these beautiful challenge coins for the Vietnam veterans. And so big shout out to Kenny Bennings and the whole crew there in Placentia, California, the mayor, city council. It was fantastic. And so today we have with us the wonderful Aaron Schwartzbart. He's back again with us. And Aaron has been a lightning rod here in Southern California and doing so much for many years, keeping our streets safe with his Motorgospel Ministries. And the wonderful thing is, this guy's got documentaries. He's out there in the community. All the politicians love him because he's trying to make a difference. And we're happy to have you back, Aaron. Mr. Aaron Schwartzbart. How you doing, man?
Thank you, sir. Wonderfully. Wonderful to be here. Lots to talk about.
Hey, the floor is yours. We're itching to know what's the good news.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
First of all, just by way of full disclosure, I don't compromise with any corrupt politicians to do what I do. I do me. And like Rodney said, it seems like everybody wants to take a picture from me. People from both sides of the aisle, from all walks of life, from all beliefs, even some that hold the things that I, as a Christian pastor, totally don't agree with. Even some that are. I'm sorry. I'm not ashamed of the idea that murdering 700,000 babies a year is sin. I'm not going to mince words about that. And even politicians that campaign on their promise to murder 700,000 babies a year and call it women's reproductive rights or whatever, even those politicians don't want to see little kids killing themselves or killing anybody else with street racing. So even those politicians want to get next to Motorgospel Ministries and do photo ops with us and stuff to show their support for our life-saving cause. So just so your viewership knows, I'm not a politician. I'm not running for office, and I don't compromise with corrupt politicians. I do me, and strangely enough, God has put me in a position to be, kind of sought after, even by politicians whose beliefs are very different than mine. A little bit like Joseph in Pharaoh's court. Joseph, he didn't protest, he didn't riot, he didn't loot, he didn't burn stuff to the ground and all that stuff. But he was faithful to his God. He showed respect for Pharaoh, but he never compromised on his faith in his God. And he ended up being Lord of Egypt, the Bible says, small L, Lord of Egypt, without any unrighteous compromise with politicians.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that said, we have been Neil Newman, my production partner. This is really long and craggy, this great story I have to share. So you guys might need to speed me up or focus me if I'm rambling or getting boring. Your viewers.
No, yeah, we're just anxious to hear.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Nothing we could have planned. It's definitely a God thing. And there are some theological implications and some shades of gray and some unanswered questions that are really stirred up by what I'm about to tell you, the supernatural experience that I believe it was supernatural that I had at Content 2023. Thank you. Irek. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
But Carrie, he just pulls it down. His name's Carrie. He just spells it back.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you. Yes. Things would be a whole lot better if people weren't afraid to just be me, and not just me, everybody. If we come just be real with each other, agree to disagree where we disagree, and come together around our common goals. Things would be a whole lot simpler if everybody were just honest with themselves and with each other. Yeah. So, this starts off with Neil Newman, approximately going on 20 years ago, 2006. We met an editor named Neil Newman, and he had just and he was editing an anti-street racing public service announcement featuring Joey Medina of Latino 96.3. Reggaeton was in full swing. Daddy Yankee, Man of the Year on Time magazine. If y'all aren't familiar with reggaeton, it's Spanish hip hop. Basically, it burst on the scene out of Puerto Rico. Strangely enough, people usually think of Spanish speakers as being immigrants from other countries. Puerto Rico is not another country.
Right.
I'm not an expert, but it bears some
U.S. territory. It's a
U.S.
U.S. territory, right?
Okay, there you go. I wasn't sure what to call it. So Puerto Rico, strangely enough, something happened in Puerto Rico that nobody planned, kind of like something happened in the Bronx or whatever when Biggie came on, or something happened in Memphis or whatever when Chuck Berry. Sometimes things just happen in the art world that you don't really plan, and that happened in Puerto Rico with a man called Ramon Ayala, who went by the name Daddy Yankee. Reggaeton was huge. It was hip hop with a certain kind of beat, Puerto Rican beat, and all in Spanish, not so much English. And everybody wanted to be Daddy Yankee overnight. In that context, a show called Latino 96.3 was very good to Motorgospel, a show whose bread and butter was, fornication and misogyny and racism and all kinds of stuff. They were equal opportunity offenders. They made fun of every color, including beige, their own. They made fun of Spanish speakers and English speakers and people who speak. Yeah. So, all manner of ungodly stuff. And yet they were very, very good to us. They gave us all kinds of airtime to talk about the anti-street racing cause. And we were united around that. And in that context, we were producing a PSA. I met a young editor named Neil Newman, who had just bought a camera, and he was aspiring to do all of the production, not just the editing. So he came with us to Auto Club Speedway and shot a bunch of footage of the John 316 car, me blasting around 150, 160 miles an hour and such. And now, 20 years later, Neil Newman and I have produced almost 20 documentary shorts about Motorgospel Ministries, chronicling our work with Rodney and with the LAPD and with government officials, and all kinds of stuff has happened. And these documentary shorts range from 30-second PSAs up to about a 7.5 minute long short. And every time I've gone to the television executives, they say beautiful stuff, but we don't have a 3-minute and 57-second time slot for you, Aaron. Come back when you have a 1-hour program that's the right. So over the past I don't know, 6 months or so, Isaac Hernandez, who y'all may know from TBN and Pure Flix and all this. He's an icon of Christian television. Just an adorable man. Isaac and Dean Cain, Superman, more powerful than a locomotive, faster than a speeding bullet. Dean Cain, Superman. Yeah. Isaac and Dean helped me to package a 58-minute, 30-second long compilation of the last 20 years worth of Neil's stunning, jaw-dropping video shorts in a way that's semi-cohesive. Isaac hosted it for us and sort of strung the shorts together in a cohesive way. And Dean and I having a fireside chat is woven in and out of it 30 or 45 seconds at a time throughout the 1 hour. Yeah, it's beautiful. Dean is an absolutely humble guy. He's really pretty. He's got the hair and stuff that I don't have. And the name, he's much more famous than I am, but very humble, down to earth guy. Much like Rodney, gives very generously to dude, your warmth and your humility, your smile, your warmth, your concern for the community and all that stuff have been a staple for Motorgospel Ministries for, well, you and I are going on 20 years, I think. I've lost track, but it's certainly been at least 10, I think.
Yeah. And Aaron, what you have done, you opened up your center there, and you've actually have included art into it. Your wonderful wife has displayed her art, given opportunity for kids to learn more about the arts as well, the fine art. And you being there, having your race cars, letting kids get their hands really busy, making them crew members to be with you, to really understand the safety component of not horsing around on the streets with these cars. I'm a performance guy. I love fast cars, but you just can't do it on these narrow streets and these highways. And believe it or not, I'm literally not far from a highway, and I literally hear cars staging and taking off a dead standstill in the middle of the night. And I go, now that was a race. You know, you hear it, you know, and so many times you hear accidents happen. And so, Aaron, you're the best at what you do. Continue, man.
Thank you. So, so we took this 58-minute, 30-second compilation, pulled together somewhat cohesively with Isaac's adorable hosting and Dean's punctuation and stuff throughout it. And it's kind of the biggest thing that's happened to us in going on 20 years of making videos. And but a funny thing happened. My gig, I have a secular gig. I left the space program after 28 years as an award-winning rocket scientist. I left the space program to devote full-time to Motorgospel Ministries in 2012. And we lived like paupers, very fulfilled paupers, but, you know, like homeless folks, money-wise, and doing our thing. And then 2020, you know, space migrated from being the playground of congressmen and admirals and fighter jocks and such to the playground of rock star investors like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Sir Richard Branson. And Bezos and Musk and Branson started snapping up all the old retired rocket scientists, pull them out of retirement and making them very sweet deals to sit around at home in their pajamas and be part-timers, you know, kind of just giving our advice while the young people get all the work done. And because I lost 13 astronauts and one civilian school teacher on my watch, you know, you learn something profound from experiences. Like you learn many profound things from experiences like that the youngsters don't have yet at these new companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. So 2020, Blue Origin pulled me out of retirement. They made me an offer I kind of couldn't refuse. They were not pushing me to quit the ministry. Well, they wanted me to quit. They wanted me to move there and work full time. But I said, no, I'm retired. I'm not doing a day job. And I'm working 60 hours a week on the ministry, if you call that retirement. So we did this part-time gig. And the part-time gig is on hiatus for a few months. That's a long story, but it's on hiatus for a few months. So all of a sudden, we have the 58-minute, 30-second long documentary with the Dean Cain in it, which is a much more recognizable name than my name. You're in it as well, of course, Rodney. You know, you've been with us in these things, as you know. Right. So you know, we have that to go to the network executives at Content 2023. Content is a huge, wonderful Christian film conference. It's not just a festival is part of it, but there's so much more to it. Workshops and speakers and getting acquainted with Capernaum Studios. They have the conference at Capernaum Studios in Weatherford, Texas, which if you're
now,
not...
Isn't that where The Chosen was?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if you're not familiar, Capernaum is like the Christian Hollywood. It sprang up out of nowhere. A woman had a vision. She believed God was calling her to buy like tens of thousands of acres in the middle of nowhere in Texas and build this Mecca where Christian films would be produced. And she bought it. And for like 12 years, nobody showed up. She paid the bills for 12 years, trusting God for this vision. I'm not an expert on her story. I hope I'm not exaggerating it, but I think this is how it went. I think it was 12 years. She paid the bills, tens of thousands of acres or whatever in the middle of nowhere, and nobody came. She had this, if you build it, they will come kind of moment. And clung to that faithfully for 12 years and nobody came. And then the next thing you know, a little producer with a little vision called Chosen came to Capernaum. And Jesus is now on secular primetime television in Los Angeles in the form of this series called Chosen. because this woman had this vision in the desert for Capernaum Studios, and now every Christian artist, director, producer, singer, editor, actor, actress, everybody wants to go to Capernaum in Texas because of this crazy story. So they have this conference called Content, annual conference called Content in Capernaum at the studios, and I've gone several times. It's life-changing. It's not just networking. It's not a bunch of people who are all full of themselves trying to be stars and stuff. It's a very soft-spirited, intimate time with Jesus. It's more like a summer camp for a bunch of hippies or something than it is like a glamorous. There are segments of Hollywood that are totally antichrist, and there are segments of Hollywood that are quote unquote Christian, and even the segments of Hollywood that are quote unquote Christian, they often are a lot more about Hollywood than they are about Jesus. They're often a lot more about stardom than they are about Jesus. They're often a lot more about selfish ambition and pride and scratching and clawing and corporate climbing and trying to get to the Harvey Weinsteins and make all kinds of unrighteous compromises in the name of trying to become a star. Even Christian Hollywood, unfortunately, that can creep in. So in contrast to that, Capernaum is a place where like nobody cares who you are. Nobody cares if you're famous. Nobody cares if you're beautiful or you're handsome. They're all about Jesus. It's really, really real. And in that context, people are getting really famous. And people are getting hugely successful in film and television and stuff in a context where first and foremost, it's about Jesus, not about stardom. It's a beautiful thing. So with that, I was between gigs on my rocket science stuff, which is something that finances the ministry tremendously. You may recall Motorgospel Ministries has no paid employees. We're all unpaid volunteers, and we don't ask for donations. It's one of our fundamentals. We gratefully receive donations. People spontaneously donate, and we put it to very good use, but we never ask. My idea of charity is if my hand is out, it's to give to the needy. It's not out to ask for a donation. So Motorgospel Ministries, I pour money into it from the secular gig, but I'm between paying gigs. So with 58 minutes and 30 seconds of what the network executives have been asking me for, featuring people much bigger than I can't go to Content this year because I can't afford the plane fare and the hotel. So with what should be like one of the most on the precipice of something really big with my documentary, finally after all this time is kind of anticlimactic because I'm not going. And I start calling around everybody that I think might be going to Content and saying, hey, can I hire you for 1 or 2 hours of your time to go pitch my documentary for me to these network executives? Because they have this big pitch fest. Part of Content is a pitch fest, kind of like Shark Tank with network executives. And and I'm trying and I'm trying and trying. There are bunches of people there, way more well-known than I. And I'm not Bill Gates by any stretch, but I don't ask for handouts. So I'm offering to pay a reasonable amount for 1 or 2 hours of somebody's time to pitch for me. It's got to be cheaper, paying a Candace Kirkpatrick or somebody for an hour of her time. It has got to be cheaper than plane fare and hotel and all that. Especially with Candace being a real Christian who, you would hope, right?
Yeah, you would hope.
She loves what we do. She's a very humble woman of God. So, right. So I'm calling all these different people and texting everybody I know that I think is going to Content saying, hey, can I hire you for an hour? I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking to hire, all the doors close. Well, I shouldn't say they close. None of the doors open. Nobody I'm calling. So even the people, a bunch of people that I thought were going, I can't go this year. Sorry, I'm not going this year. And then the people that are there, I wouldn't feel comfortable pitching your vision, Aaron. It's your vision. I couldn't do that. I'm going to be pitching at the same time as you are. My own thing. I can't. I don't have time. I'm Isaac Hernandez. I'm going to be receiving people's pitches. Isaac Hernandez is one of these network executives. So the same guy who hosted my documentary, he's there at Pitch Fest receiving other people's pitches on behalf of 5 platforms that he controls and such. And all the doors closed. And one individual that I tried to hire, I almost can't say it without crying. It's so cool. This person who wants to remain anonymous said, Aaron, nobody can pitch your passion like you can. How about I send you the money so you can go and pitch it yourself? And I was
Wonderful.
not right. I was not explicitly asking for a donation. I was not even
Mhm.
hinting. I don't even hint. I'm a very candid guy, as you know.
Mhm.
Good, bad, or indifferent. The good, the bad, and the ugly. What you see with me is what you get. I don't hint at
That's
stuff.
right.
I don't beat around the bush. I wasn't even hinting for a donation. I was completely sincerely attempting to hire this individual for an hour of his or her time, who's going to remain anonymous, to go and pitch for me. And this person said, nobody can pitch it like you. I'm going to send you the money
Right.
so you can
That's
go.
true.
Right. Totally
That's
turned the tables. No.
Wow.
Yeah. I thank God
That's
for
a God story right there. I
Wow.
right,
think,
right.
yeah.
That's amazing. And you know what? And also, too, Aaron, coming up next week here in Southern California is the American film market.
Oh,
Over $1 billion changes hands in Santa Monica, California.
oh,
All the biggest buyers and distributors from around the world show up to the American film market,
oh,
and they literally acquire properties. They're in the hotel here in downtown Santa Monica. They take over the whole hotel. It becomes a sale area, and there's a floor of documentaries, comedy, action, and so all the producers are there, and all of the buyers walk through the hotel and acquire it. It's amazing. If you ever get a chance to go, you also got to check out the American film market. That'd be a
Yes.
great place for you.
You got that right. That's next weekend or
Yeah,
during the
just
week?
Google it. Is the American film market? Yeah, next week, and
Okay.
it's right in Santa Monica, right in beautiful Santa
Oh,
Monica, California.
looks like God is already opening other doors for you.
Right,
So,
right.
but we're running out of time, and I'm like, I mean, we're not there
Uh-oh.
yet, but
Okay.
we still have like a little less than 10 minutes,
Okay.
and we haven't even got you to content yet. So I want to
Right.
hear
Right,
what
right.
happened once you got to content.
Okay, so I'll speed it up a bit. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I'm going to content because this individual turned the tables on me, who I was trying to hire, instead
Mhm.
ended up sponsoring me to go and pitch my deal.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
so I was going to go just for one day. Things were
Mhm.
tight enough that I was going to like fly out there, make my pitch, fly home, barely even get any time for sleep or anything like that.
Mhm.
And Tara worked on me for a few days. It took her a while to convince me. She's like, Aaron, that's too tight. We're not that tight. You could go for 3 days. If you're going for one day,
Right.
go for 3 days. That's you're punishing yourself too hard. You know,
That's
we're
right.
not
Right.
we're not
Right.
youngsters anymore, and I'm still trying to run like a 26-year-old kid. I'm 61 now. I feel like 18 sometimes, but anyhow,
Sure.
all of that to say, Tede convinced me to go not just for Pitch Fest, but to go for 3 days and really spend time networking
Yeah.
and hanging out with the brothers
Yeah.
and sisters and stuff like that. And
She's
that
a
turned out
smart
to be,
woman.
oh man, like you
That's right.
can't imagine. That turned out to be this huge. I mean, it's almost just the idea that I went to Pitch Fest. Pitch Fest was a Friday. I went to Pitch Fest, like the sponsor encouraged me to do. I went to
Uh-huh.
Pitch Fest, and I pitched to like 5 platforms. All of them said yes. I've already signed one contract. This alone would be like absolutely huge. This alone would be like one of the biggest things that's happened in 20 plus years of Motorgospel Ministries, going to
Wonderful.
Pitch Fest. And so far, the first of the 5 or 6 platforms that all said yes. I've signed a contract. The contract has over 200 million potential viewers associated with it, based on this platform being on like Roku and Chromecast, and if you have
Wonderful.
all the different places where this platform goes. So
Mhm.
stay tuned on the details for that. And that's only the first of like 5 platforms that all said 2 thumbs up when they saw the pitch on the documentary. That
Is that I have to ask, is that normal? I mean, do you normally get that kind of response when you go and pitch?
I have never. I don't
You've
know
never
about
done
any. I've pitched, but
it just
I've
yeah.
never gotten such a 2 thumbs up from like 5 different platforms. No, I've never seen anything like that.
Mhm.
So literally God gave you favor when
Oh, it
you
certainly
went.
Oh,
seems
yeah.
it. Certainly
Yeah.
seems it. And it's
Awesome.
so clear after the conversations that I had with these folks and their
Mhm.
response. It was so clear that no stranger pitching it could have
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not exalting myself. I'm just saying
Right.
the interaction was
Right.
so
Really?
Right.
personal and
Yeah.
so authentic and specific to my experience that
Mhm.
the some of the responders got pretty choked up. I mean, some of the
Mm.
people to whom I was pitching got pretty choked up based on my
Really?
stories of the fatalities and stuff and the whole
Right,
thing.
right.
Yeah, that would not have happened with a stranger pitching it, I don't think.
Mhm.
So
I don't think so
very
either.
cool. So that
Yeah.
alone, I mean, that alone is like a total home run, right? That's like everything I could have
Right.
dreamed of, you would think,
Right.
but God had more in mind.
Wow.
Right.
God who goes beyond what we ask or think.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That
right.
one.
Tare convinced me to not go only for the pitch fest, but to go and relax a little bit and enjoy,
Mhm.
which I did. And Wednesday night they had what they called worship under the stars and communion and stuff. It was
Okay.
music, preaching, and prayer together and stuff like that. I wasn't even going to go. I was tired. I wanted to go back to the hotel. I had a wonderful day with the brothers and sisters Wednesday,
Mhm.
but I wasn't even going to stay for the event in the evening. And then I heard this soft music wafting up through the beautiful, the night sky in Texas is nothing like Los Angeles. It's
Right.
I love my Lion's Den here. It's my Lion's Den, but it's Capernaum Studios is so peaceful. It's
Right.
very different than DTLA or Hollywood or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I heard the soft music. I went walking down through the brush and the dirt and the stones and the trees and everything, and to behold this amazing scene of just a couple of people playing acoustic instruments and singing
Wow.
so heartfelt to Jesus. And it was so different than anything I encounter in LA. I'd been so busy and so distracted here. I'm absolutely zealous and passionate for my ministry, but
Mhm.
my heart has been so hard. Not hard in terms of like unrepentant sin or anything like that, but just
Mhm.
I don't have time for intimacy with the Holy Spirit. I'm just too busy for it.
Mhm.
Very,
Mhm.
very sad place for a minister to be, and yet
Mhm.
it's an authentic place. You know, how do
Mhm.
you work this breakneck thing in the community for the Lord and still
Yeah.
have time to be able to chill with the Lord like you're sitting on a
Right.
beach in Hawaii somewhere? That's a balancing act.
Mhm.
And I take an honest to goodness Sabbath once a week. I keep Sabbath
Mhm.
faithfully, and yet I'm constantly distracted. So
Right.
I saw this scene. It was like being at the vineyard 30 years ago, being a youngster, meeting Jesus for the first time. And I started bawling my eyes out. And I never cry in the presence. I haven't cried in the presence of the Lord in like 30 years. I'm just not that soft. I'm just way too busy with stuff, way too distracted. And my heart melted like it hasn't melted in like 30 years. And I had this moment with the
Beautiful.
Lord that was so much more than just networking, so much more than just finding out that 200 million people are going to be potentially watching our documentary because somebody, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's
Thank you.
right.
Right. So, I mean, I was like a new baby Christian. My heart just,
All over again.
it was
Yeah.
amazing. It was amazing. I was crying and I was hugging everybody and it was so emotional. And then this man got up with a harp. This is where it gets a little weird. And, I don't know. Do we have 5 minutes? How are we doing time? I know we're about at the.
We can go over a little bit.
Yeah.
We're
Okay,
fine.
time a little bit because we're just getting to the punch now.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Do
this
it.
man got up with a harp, who believes he is called to prophesy with his instrument, not even necessarily with words,
Mhm.
and started playing the harp. And this is
Hmm.
where it gets a little weird. Rodney, I don't know if Nina, we've talked about this part of my life, but I came
Mhm.
out of the womb playing music. I'm a musician before I could read and write. I'm a musician
Yeah.
before I was a rocket scientist, musician before a race car driver, all that stuff. Music is not the central feature of my ministry, but music
Mhm.
is the most natural thing that I was born to do.
Mhm.
And as any kind of artist knows that is a sincere Christian, we
Mhm.
wrestle with the beauty of art just for the sake of art that
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Jesus. Some of
Right.
the most beautifully produced movies are horrible pornography that's very evil in God's sight. And yet,
Mhm.
if we're being honest about the quality of the production, their producers are more impassioned. Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction was
Yeah.
you know, that was
Yeah.
a moment in rock and roll music history that will never be recreated. And it was more quote unquote inspired than a whole bunch of songs that you hear in church on Sunday morning, because they're real corporate and they're
Mhm.
cranked out by corporate suits just to make some money. And they aren't really,
Mhm.
how does an honest artist deal with that,
Mhm.
that landscape in this context? One of
Mhm.
my favorite Guns N' Roses songs, as you may know, Rodney, I don't know if you know,
Yeah.
Nina, I do sidewalk evangelism every Friday at Granada Hills Grub Fest. I hand out free Bibles, and I shred sanitized versions of Van Halen and Guns N' Roses and Leonard Skinner and
Yeah.
B.B. King and Carlos Santana, all kinds of stuff. Never using lyrics that would hurt God's feelings. They're always
What is
sanitized.
the instrument you play?
Keytar. Keytar is a
yeah.
Keytar has the keyboard on the right hand, and it has an expression ribbon on the left hand that allows me to do vibrato like B.B. King and pitch bend like Carlos Santana and stuff. Much more expressive than just the keys, which are a little bit more of like switches, like a percussion instrument. Keyboard is sort of a percussion instrument. You press the buttons, you press the keys. You don't get to bend pitch and put your soul into vibrato and things like that, like you can on the keytar with the left hand. And what I do with the keytar is very unique. Keytar was a bubblegum pop instrument of the 80s that was not a very inspired instrument. Impersonal plastic box of microchips. Nobody plays B.B. King on a key. Nobody makes it moan and wail like Lady Day or Billie Holiday, B.B. King, Carlos Ken. I'm kind of the only one that does that. I inherited my left hand from my mom. She was a violinist, and she had a vibrato that would make a grown man cry. She could melt the toughest heart with that vibrato, and I inherited that from my mom. So yeah, thank you. So I have this strange relationship with Guns N' Roses and Van Halen and all these people that did all kinds of evil stuff with their lyrics, where I love their music. It's beautifully executed music. And I use their music in my evangelistic outreaches, sanitized, no lyrics that, instrumental only, no lyrics that would offend the Lord. One of those songs is called November Rain. And as I was crying in this setting with the brothers and the sisters, taking communion and hugging everybody and feeling like a brand new baby, my heart was
don't tell me he played it on the harp.
The prophet playing the harp played November Rain, and he did not know Guns N' Roses. He never heard the song before. You've heard those stories, right? You've heard those stories about like where somebody goes and they're speaking Korean and they've never spoken Korean before, like a miraculous tones impartation.
Right.
This man was playing November Rain, and he never heard the song before, and he doesn't know Guns N' Roses. He doesn't know that song, and he considers himself called to be a prophet on the harp. So I'm sitting here, and this wasn't any kind of contrived attempt to melt my heart with my flesh with music. Music gets to our flesh. We know that. It makes your toes tap. That's not necessarily the Holy Spirit. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's your flesh, right? So it wasn't anything contrived like that. He didn't know what he was playing. And I had already had the moment of crying before the Lord and my heart being softened with other songs before the harpist started playing November Rain. So at that point where I was already softened up, he started playing this song. Going on 20 years ago, I have moments where with my strange relationship with music, I feel like the Lord allows me to enjoy secular music. And then I have other moments where I feel like the Lord is telling me, no, turn it off. This is not for you to hear this today. These people had evil intents in their heart. And I can't tell you why. It's not a black and white thing. His ability to speak is perfect. My ability to hear is not perfect. I can't tell you why I feel like sometimes the Lord is saying, turn it off. And sometimes the Lord allows me to enjoy it. But 20 years ago, I was listening to November Rain on the radio. It's such a beautiful song. Guns N' Roses song. Guns N' Roses, November Rain. Most of their stuff is very loud, hard rock. This is a very intimate, beautiful, quiet sort of orchestral song. It's a little atypical for Guns N' Roses. And I was listening to that beautiful Guns N' Roses song like 20 years ago, and I felt like the Holy Spirit was saying, turn it off. And I didn't obey. I kept listening. It was so beautiful to me. And I didn't obey, and I didn't turn it off. And Tere's mom passed away shortly thereafter. And I always kind of blame myself for her mom's death because I didn't turn off that beautiful song, November Rain, when I felt like the Holy Spirit was telling me to turn off that song.
Wow.
And our God is not a God of superstition, but sometimes our God has things that matter to him, don't seem like a big deal to us. A famous guy in the Tanakh traded his birthright for some lentils. He was hungry or something like that. And that was a really meaningful thing in God's sight that he did. Sometimes God has really slammed his people for seemingly minor acts of disobedience. Sometimes very long-term consequences. Other times he doesn't. And it's being superstitious to say, oh no, I can't, I have to cross myself this way, but not this way or something like that.
Aaron, I got to tell you, we have to, I really, is there going to be a point where we could get a link or be able to support you and tell our viewers how to watch the documentary? Is it going to be? Yeah,
Um,
where? Mhm.
Yeah. So yes, that will be advertised all over the place in time. I'm not
Okay.
sure yet when we're premiering or
It's going to
anything.
release. Okay.
I think I can say the first contract is with Taken TV,
Mhm.
TAKEN TV dot. I think it's .com. I'm not sure, but if they
Okay.
Google Taken TV, but yes, that will all be certainly be advertised with a lot of publicity
Now,
and stuff.
are these going to be PSAs that are going to drop in between their programming, or is it a full-length
It's a full
documentary?
1 hour documentary.
1 hour documentary. Okay,
Yes, yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. It's a
Awesome.
huge.
So
It's a
now, were you through with the story about the November
Oh
Rain
no,
song?
so right. So here's the deal.
Yeah.
So I called Tara from the hotel and told her
Okay.
about how soft I was and that experience and that feeling and all
Okay.
that. And I told her about the harpist playing November Rain and
Mm.
who didn't know the song November Rain, didn't know he was playing a Guns N'
Okay.
Roses song.
Right.
And I told Tara that about how 20 years ago, and Tara was very close to her mom. It was like Shakespearean tragedy when her mom passed.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
I told her how 20 years ago I felt like the Lord told me to turn November Rain off, and I didn't obey. And I've always blamed myself for her mom's passing because of that. And Tara felt like, in her spirit, she feels like, no, that's superstition. That's not God. She doesn't hold it. She doesn't blame me for her mom's death. And we
Right.
had this incredible moment of reconciliation of that thing that I had been carrying all this time that I had never discussed
That
with her.
burden.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and I
That burden
told
you carried that you didn't need to.
right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And I told the harpist about it and asked if he knew November Rain. No, he doesn't know Guns N' Roses. He's never heard the song
Hmm.
November Rain before. He believes God has called him to prophesy with his harp without a word.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean that can't all be
He
coincidence.
did.
That
Right.
reconciliation.
No,
Wow.
it's not coincidence
So,
at all.
so
It's like God,
that's the wrap.
God was letting you know right there, I see you and I
Yes,
see the burden you've been carrying.
yes,
And tonight is the night I
Wow.
lift this burden off of
yes,
you.
yes,
I've
yes.
got chills. Oh,
Right,
I've got
right,
chills just thinking
right,
about it.
right. And that
Powerful.
wouldn't happen if this donor didn't. I bet he cried. Yes, 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 Carrie. Yes. Um, he did. He did. It was heavy.
Wow.
Mm.
That wouldn't have happened if this donor didn't turn the tables when I was trying to hire him
Right.
or her to go present for me and
All
provide
of it
for me
came
to go
together.
there. That was waiting there for me that Wednesday night. And it wouldn't happen if Tara didn't convince me, don't go just for one day, go and spend time with the brothers and sisters.
That's right. You would have missed it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know what? I think with your
Wow.
sponsor too, I fully believe all of us are just conduits.
That's right.
It's God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. It's
Yes.
all of the resources are his. We're just conduits. And sometimes he has something earmarked
Mhm.
already just for you, but
Yes.
he's got it in somebody else's keeping.
Yes.
They're just a
Yes.
steward of it. And then when the
Yes.
That's right.
time comes,
Yes.
he reveals this is where it's supposed to go. And it
Yes.
does.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. I
Beautiful story.
love that story with the Guns N' Roses song, and
Right.
I
Right.
can't wait. I'm gonna be telling that to other people myself, and
Yes.
yes, it
Yes.
gave me chills.
Powerful.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I'm
Aaron,
so
look,
thrilled.
Aaron, I tell you, we have to have you back again because we still have to do a deeper dive into the services, your connection, your real heart for the
Yes.
community.
Yes.
And I really want to know more about this documentary and again, all of the players, the people who were in it, people who supported you.
Good.
And we want to give you that due time and
Good.
a pre-push for the eventual launch
Yes.
of this
Good.
documentary. And
Good.
Yes.
we really appreciate you, man, being on. You have to come back again, man. You really
Yes.
do.
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna come by. I'm gonna come by the center and come see you.
Good.
And I'm telling you, Nina, another fabulous interview.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've been wonderful, Aaron. Thank you so much, and we can't wait to have you back again
Thank you.
Mhm.
and
Thank you.
hear
Same
more
here.
about it. So we're gonna set that up with you.
Good.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I know we ran a
Yeah.
little late this morning, but it was worth it, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
just worth it to stick around and hear the whole story.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Aaron and Rodney.
Yep.
Great to see you as always. Looking forward to
Good.
seeing all of you next week on the This
Yep.
Way Network here on the chat session. And thank all of you who were there in the comments for us. We love
Yeah.
you all, and y'all be of good courage. God is with us, and we are not alone.
God bless.
Bye, everybody.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Have a great week, everyone.